Hi everyone. For today's Titanic themed book review, we're going to be checking out the recently published The Sinking of the Titanic by J. Henry Mowbray. Now the link to this book, which has just been released, can be found below. But Mowbray's book has actually been around essentially since after the Titanic sank. What this book is, and what it originally was, is something that is referred to as an instant book. Now, back in the early 20th century, one way to compile all known information about a disaster is to scour all known newspaper accounts, local, metropolitan, major titles, and basically grab all the articles related to those stories and then whip them together into a book with a few illustrations, paintings, photos even, and then sell them off as a book in the same way that encyclopedia salesmen used to do. They would just go door to door and sell via subscription. And these instant books were exactly the same. And Mowbray's book is one that details the sinking of the Titanic. Being a compilation of first-hand accounts, the benefit of books such as this are that we can feel the immediacy and the pain and the agony of the survivors. We can hear their voices completely unfiltered after a century of different changing values and hindsight. And the immediacy of the disaster can be felt through those words. But also, considering that it's now been a century, when you read between the lines, you can also see some of the biases, some of the attitudes of the time that aren't compatible with the values that we share today, and also just the language itself. The language screams 1912, and if we were to read that today, we would probably roll our eyes and think, enough with the hyperbole. But again, this is a historical document of people's words and thoughts and sentiments of 1912. It is absolutely not perfect because many stories have been either embellished or entirely fabricated. And that is one of the strong points of this edition. This edition is completely annotated, and any reference regarding embellishments or fabrications are highlighted in the footnotes. So we get to see the emotional recounting of the disaster by survivors, passengers, crew, relatives, but also where something has either intentionally or unintentionally been misquoted or described incorrectly, then the editors have gone ahead and corrected that for the historical record. So while Mowbray was the gentleman that compiled all these accounts, the book itself is edited by Stephen Hadlesey, and the preface is by Titanic expert Bruce Beveridge. And as I just noted, it is these annotations that make this edition stand alone amongst all the other collections of first-hand accounts. What is interesting is that it is through books such as this that the historical memory of how people remember, visualize, fantasize how the Titanic sank all starts from these accounts. The slow unraveling, the gradual increase in panic, the use of "Near, my God, to thee," all these elements that we can't divide now from the Titanic story all start from here. This particular book as well has more than 100 illustrations. So the original instant book had some photos included and illustrations. This one has much more incorporated, and you can see the images up there. You also probably would have seen by now that much of the text is also accompanied by footnotes at the bottom where needed, so that the historical record is put straight. And the commentary around some of the photos is also fascinating. May I highlight this particular painting by an Italian artist showing the abandonment of the ship. This particular scene directly influenced some of the promotional posters of the movie A Night to Remember, which in itself is based on a book about survivors' accounts and is probably the magnum opus of Titanic first-hand accounts. And plenty of editions of A Night to Remember can be had. This is my one, which, judging by that sticker, as you can see, I purchased in 1912. I actually got this in Belfast in 1912. Anyway, that's another story. For those who are interested in Mowbray's collection of Titanic accounts, there is another version that was published in 1998, which is this one, The Sinking of the Titanic Eyewitness Accounts, edited by J. Henry Mowbray. You may find this around in some second-hand bookstores. I got this one for $4, so an absolute bargain for a collection of first-hand accounts. But this, published by Dover, is completely unabridged. It is simply the 1912 version put into a 1998 package. Another one worth noting for those who might be interested in first-hand accounts is the marginally expanded Voices from the Titanic. This book, edited by Jeff Tibbles, is essentially the same concept as Mowbray's book, and indeed much of the content of this comes from Mowbray. There are some additional information regarding historical context in this book, but this is another one for those that might be interested in collecting first-hand accounts. Seeing that it is now, 111 years since the sinking of the Titanic, books such as this are excellent because they make a balance between the raw immediacy and emotion of first-person accounts, so you can truly appreciate and grasp and feel what it was like to survive the sinking in 1912. But at the same time, the annotations and the corrections set the record straight. So we now know that the ship broke in two. We now know that the sound of the ship breaking up wasn't, boilers breaking loose and rolling away or exploding, but rather it was the ship itself wrenching itself in two. To me, this book is a four captain's hats. It allows the emotion and the biases of the era to come through, but all the annotations, footnotes, and historical analysis that accompanies this allows us to look back and have a more holistic and objective view of the events of that night. And it is balanced out quite well in this edition. So there you have it. The Sinking of the Titanic by J. Henry Mowbray. Check this one out. This edition, the link for it is down below. But for those of you who just want to read first-hand accounts, completely unfiltered, unannotated, with errors and all, then do check out the other two editions that I highlighted before. And of course, to balance all out as a perfect companion, you can't go wrong with the absolute magnum opus, A Night to Remember. But of course, this is for another time. So there you have it. If there are any other Titanic books, shipwreck books, ship books that you would like reviewed, please let me know in the comments below. And until next time, enjoy and happy reading, everyone.